Hello everyone, I'm Geek Freak and welcome to the video. Guys, I am a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I do believe my first experience when it came to Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the TV series, not the card game itself, in real life. And the first episode I ever watched was when Kaiba was facing off against Yugi in Duelist Kingdom, when Kaiba brought out his Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. And I'm going to tell you guys something, the first time I saw the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, I thought that was the coolest looking monster I've ever seen. I mean, come on, a dragon with 3 heads and it looks so freaking awesome. And to be honest, I didn't know what the rules was, I didn't know anything about attack or defense or anything like that. But I kind of sort of got the general idea. The biggest attack wins and the smallest attack loses. I got the general idea. And the 3 cards that stuck out to me was Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Karibo, Mammoth Graveyard, and the Celtic Guardian. I think it was the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and the Celtic Guardian facing off against each other that made me think, okay, so it's a knight versus a dragon, and it was a weak monster versus a strong monster, you know, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon versus Karibo. And I don't know why, but at the time, I thought Mammoth Graveyard looked like a very cool looking monster, despite how weak it was. I think it actually might have been the name, Mammoth Graveyard. That is such a weird name, but at the same time, I sort of liked the name. And after that, I slowly but surely started watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And then sometime later, I would get the cards in real life. And I would slowly but surely learn how to play the game, while collecting the cards. And for years, I started to learn about the old cards, the fusion monsters, normals, effects, rituals, fusions, etc, etc. And I would also get the games as well. And I think it was the games that introduced me to monster cards that looked absolutely useless. And they were useless. Like the Fusionist. There are plenty of fusion monsters like this that are completely useless either because they're the most worthless of cards, they're too hard to bring out. I mean, there are plenty of fusions like this. It makes you wonder why some of these are even fusions in the first place. Now, unless they had a really good effect, like say, I don't know, when this card is on the field, send 2 or more fusion material monsters to the graveyard and special summon onto the field the fusion monster that makes up the 2 monsters or more to the graveyard and special summon that fusion monster. You can only use this effect once per turn. I mean, that would be a good effect, but there's loads of fusions like this. They're either too weak, pointless to put in your deck. It's the same with field cards, like the Mountain. And there's all sorts of different cards like this, like all dragons and winged beast monsters and thunder types gains 200 attack and defense points. And there's other field cards like this as well, like the forest, the grasslands, the wastelands. And these field cards will just give you a 200 to a 500 increase in defense or attack. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, you've got cards like Yumi that goes well with water type monsters, and you've got Jurassic World that goes along with your dinosaur deck. But at the very least, these 2 cards did more than just increase the attack points. I mean, you've got Legendary Ocean that it's an upgrade to Yumi. So if you ask me, I think field cards like Mountain that only gives you like 500 to 200 attack points should be given more of an evolution. They should be given more of an update. And it isn't just field cards like Mountain. There was also cards like Legendary Sword that gave you a 300 attack and defense boost to the equipped monster. And there is quite a few equipped cards like this, like that spell book for spellcasters that gave them a 300 attack. There was plenty of equipped spell cards like this. And to be fair, I actually do miss the old equipped spell cards like Salamandra, the Axe of Despair, Lightning Blade, Sword of Dragon Soul, Horn of the Unicorn, the Black Pendant, Sword of Deep Seated. And you know what? Having all these equipped spell cards, especially the sword types, being equipped to warriors. I mean, can you imagine a warrior, Celtic sword type or knight type monster, wielding a sword that's either lightning or flame or something cool like that, and it gives the monster a huge boost? And you know what? I really do miss those times. I really do wish the old equipped spell cards would get updated. And I mean all of them. And when you're looking at this legendary sword here, you guys are probably guessing what I'm talking about. You know, Legendary Sword, the Sorcerer's Book, you know, all those weak equipped spells, and others like the Black Pendant, and Salamandra, the Lightning Blade, and Horn of the Unicorn. I mean, if monsters are going to be updated, then why not spells or traps? Because there are quite a few magic and trap cards, or spell cards, that should definitely 100% get an update. And to be honest, I really do love equipped spell cards. I mean, come on, how cool is that? A knight swinging his sword against another monster, like the Flame Swordsman swinging Salamandra. I mean, come on, that is cool. And you've also got the useless card monsters. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of those. But just like the fusions and the rituals, I think they should get an update and have another chance, and make their effects something useful. And not to mention, most, if not all, common monster cards, or non-effect monster cards. You know, something like Mammoth Graveyard or Beaver Warrior. there are loads and loads of these normal monster types. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually a fan of Beaver Warrior and Mammoth Graveyard and Griffor. And not just those monsters that we saw in the show, there are also normal monster cards that have eye levels, but as crappy attack and defense, like Rukaiser or Kairyushin, that both have level 5. I mean, come on, there are plenty of level 4s that have an attack of 2000. Some have 21, 22, 23, and 24. So really, those type of cards aren't really needed, but if they was to have a good effect, then the tribute would be so worth it. And there's also the low level monsters with low attack and defense. If you've seen the old school normal Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, you guys know what I'm talking about. All the old normal monsters should make a return. And not only them, but the monsters who have crappy effects. There are loads of them, but I'll give you one example. There's Zone Eater, whose effect is a monster attacked by this card will be destroyed during the end phase of the 5th turn after the attack. I mean, come on, what use is that? And there are loads of other cards, monsters, that have crappy effects like this. So yeah, they should be updated. And not only that, there's also the really hard monsters to bring out. Or the monsters that's not even worth being brought out, or is too hard to bring out. Like the Dark Sage, or Mirage Knight. I mean yeah, they am a pain in the ass to try and get out on the field. But I just love the design of these things. If you guys are familiar with the Dark Sage or Mirage Knight, you know what I'm talking about. They're just really hard to bring out, and they're not even worth being brought out, or even put into your deck. I mean, Mirage Knight is only good for a one-time attack and that's it. So I think cards like Dark Sage and Mirage Knight, that's a pain in the backside to get onto the field for a not so good effect. And again, there are quite a few monsters like this. And finally, ritual monsters. Again, there are a few ritual monsters that aren't even worth being put into your deck. I mean yeah, you've got Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon that has a great effect and 4000 attack points. And I'm telling you guys, the Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon is a fantastic ritual monster. And then you've got ritual monsters like the Hungry Burger and Dukoro Rider that has no effect, and the attack points is that of level 4 monsters, where some level 4 normal monsters have like 1900 to 2000 attack. So yeah, these ritual monsters are useless. And not just these, but there's loads of other ritual monsters that's like this. Either their attacks aren't good, or their effects aren't good, or they're just not worth putting into your deck. So yeah, they need to be updated. I mean yeah, there has been a few ritual monsters, like Fortress Whale, that is a ritual monster, and it had an update called Stronghold Whale, and it does have a decent effect. And you know what, I do love the design of this. Now that's how you update a card. All ritual monsters should be updated. In fact, all the old cards should be updated, and should be given effects. I have seen quite a few monster cards that's been updated, with some really good effects. The fusions, the equip spells, the field cards, effects, normals. As you can see on the screen here, these are only a few of so many cards that should be updated, but the ones you see on here, on the screen now, is the ones that are my favourite, or the ones that I really want to see get an update. And only because your favourite classic card isn't in the stash, doesn't mean it's not any better than my favourite classic cards. All I'm saying is that all classic cards should get an update. I mean yeah, don't get me wrong, 2 or 3 of these cards in the stash does have some good effects, but saying that, I think they should get an update either way. And not just these, but every single all classic card should get an update. But today I'm going to give you guys my top 5 cards or group of cards that I would love to see get an update. And these are my personal opinions. And I'm also going to give my ideas of what they could do for the monsters or magic or traps for these cards I'm about to show you. They're either going to be themed or standalones. And without further ado, let's resume. And number 5 is the Mask theme deck. Now, these cards were seen in the show, and they were wielded by Loomis and Umbra. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. I cannot stand support cards. You know, for example, there are loads of cards that supports the Dark Magician, and the Blue Eyes, and the Red Eyes. You guys know what I'm talking about. When it came to support cards, it always felt like the deck was already made for you. Like, you didn't need to think of a strategy. You know, you had cards that would support the Blue Eyes, you had cards that would support the Dark Magician. You guys know what I'm talking about. But when it came to the masks, this was more of a theme than just support cards. These mask theme cards wasn't exactly support cards, but they had a theme going on. It's kind of like, for example, I just wanted to fill my deck in with just dragons. and dragon related stuff like Lord of D, the Flutes of Summoning Dragons. The mask cards is kind of something similar like that. They're not supporting cards, but they're actually themed cards, like a spellcaster deck or a dragon deck. But in this case, it's a mask themed deck, and the mask theme monsters are pretty good too. And even though I think some of these mask themed cards are decent in their own right, I think there actually needs to be more of these things, like take the themed ones out of the manga and in the anime, and make them a real life card. These mask cards aren't restricted to any one group of monsters or spells or traps, but you can use the traps and spell cards on any monster, and that's what I love about this mask theme deck. They're not support, but they're themed. But I do believe that some of these card effects needs to be updated and have some of the manga and anime only mask cards be made into a real card. I mean, I'm all for themed cards, and I've never really been a fan of support cards that supports, a specific card or cards. Like, again, you'll only get cards that works for the Dot Magician, the Red Eyes, the Blue Eyes, that sort of stuff. But when it came to the masks, you can use them on any card you have in your deck. And you have the trap card, Mask of Restrict. Cards cannot be tributed. I mean, come on, tributing your cards is rare these days. So that card would want to be updated. And like I said, some of these cards need to be updated. And there's a few that needs to be made from the show and the manga and updated. I mean, the attack on the Masked Beast isn't really that bad, but I think it could do better if it had like an effect. And you know what? I really do love this theme deck. But in this day and age, I definitely think that it definitely needs an update. Not in a support way, but a theme way. And with that said, let's move on to number 4. And number 4 is a tiebreaker. Well, kinda. And we have Pumpkin King of Ghosts and Castle of Dark Illusions. Now, I've seen both of these in the show, and I knew in the show that Pumpkin King of Ghosts affected zombies and Castle of Dark Illusions affected dark or fiends. But instead, on both of these cards, they actually affect each other, which doesn't make any sense. One was obviously for zombies and the other one was for fiends. And really, the effects on these two aren't really that good at all whatsoever. But again, I do love the look on both these cards. And again, they were both in the show. And if these two was to get an update, I think Pumpkin King of Ghost should have an effect of something like, as long as Pumpkin King of Ghost is on the field, all zombie monsters get 500 attack points each turn. If any monster card goes to the graveyard, Pumpkin King of Ghost can bring back that monster, and it gains 500 attack points, and it's treated as a zombie. If the monster is destroyed by battle or effect, return it to the field. It could be something, something like that. And when it comes to Castle of Dark Illusions, it could be similar to Pumpkin King of Ghost. All fiend monsters on the field gains 1,500 attack points. And when it comes to your opponent's turn, flip your monsters face down in attack position and shuffle them and lay them out on the field while facing down in attack position. If your opponent attacks a face down attack pose monster and it has more attack points, send your opponent's monster's card to the graveyard. It could be something like that. And also, in my opinion, I think Castle of Dark Illusion should be a field spell card, not an actual monster. But hey, that's just my opinion. And to be honest, I think it would actually be cooler as a field spell than a monster. But if you guys have any other ideas what Pumpkin King of Ghosts could do or Castle of Dark Illusion can do, please let me know in the comment section below. And with that said, let's move on to number 3. And number 3 is Sword Hunter. Now, when it comes to Sword Hunter is one of my favourite cards. Because, again, I just like the look of him. And his effect kind of has the same effect that the old equip spell cards used to have. Equip this card to a certain monster and it gains 200 to 300 attack points. And this is what Sword Hunter has. Whenever this card destroys an opponent's monster, this card gains 200 attack points. And it's equipped to it. I mean, the monster that Sword Hunter destroys gets equipped to this. Now, even though I do like the look of this card, its effect is absolutely awful. It gains attack points, very meager low attack points, from the card that you just destroyed with Sword Hunter, and it's equipped to Sword Hunter. And if I remember correctly, when this card destroys a monster, it's placed back onto the field, equipped to Sword Hunter, it gains 200 life points, and one of the down things is, it's taking up room in your trap and spell zones, all for a meager 200 attack points. And let's just say, for example, that you destroyed 5 monsters with Sword Hunter, and you had 5 empty spell and trap zones. This card's attack would be 3,450. And not to mention that this card is actually a 2 tribute monster. I mean, back in the day at Duelist Kingdom or Battle City, you could make the argument that this card is much more better than the Dark Magician. Back in the day. I mean, all this card had to do was destroy one of your cards, and it would be 150 attack points more than the Dark Magician, and it can just grow from there. And if this card was to destroy 2 more cards, its attack would be 3050, much more powerful than the Blue Eyes. But you know what? I think adding Sword Equipped spell cards to Sword Hunter would have been the better option. But anyways, yes, I would like them to update this card. And they could either do one or two things. Number one, each time this monster destroys another monster, it gains 1000 attack points, and the destroyed monster is equipped to this card. And each time your opponent's monster battles with this card, you can discard an equipped monster or an equipped spell card to keep Sword Hunter on the field. Or you can equip all your equipped spell cards to Sword Hunter from your deck. So basically, you would show all the equipped spell cards that you want Sword Hunter to be equipped to your opponent, and say, these are the cards I'm going to be equipping my Sword Hunter to, and then you shuffle them back into your deck. If one of your equipped spell cards is sent to the graveyard from your deck or your hand, it loses the attack and defense points from the equipped spell card and its effect. I mean, come on, this would be fun, but hey, this is just a suggestion. I just really love the look of this card. And so, with that said, let's move on to number 2. And number 2 is Time Wizard. Okay, it's not necessarily the effect of Time Wizard. I mean, you've got like a 50-50 chance with success or failure with this card. I mean, it's not a bad card. There's really nothing wrong with this card, but I think they missed a really good opportunity for this card. Now, in the show, we see Joey use this card on his Baby Dragon, and if it's a success, Baby Dragon fuses into Thousand Dragon. And we see this with the Dark Magician, when Yugi and Joey was dueling. Instead of destroying Dark Magician, it actually turned into the Dark Sage. Now, I will say this, Dark Sage is a pointless card to have in your deck, and it's a 50-50 chance that you'll get it out in real life. But when it comes to Thousand Dragon, you just use Polymerization with Time Wizard and Baby Dragon. And you know what? This was a wasted opportunity. Time Wizard could have been used for other cards, like other monsters. I mean, we've had Dark Magician and the Dark Sage, Baby Dragon with Thousand Dragon, but what about other cards? What if there was other cards that could transform other monsters into other monsters? I mean, when you look at the Toon cards that Pegasus was using, he transformed the Blue Eyes White Dragon into the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon and the Summoned Skull, and there was also the Dark Magician Girl, and there was Gemini Elf. I mean, if you guys seen all the Toon monsters that was brought out, you guys know what I'm talking about. There was the Dark Magician, there was Buster Blader, Red Eyes, Toon Cyber Dragon, Toon Goblin Attack Force, Manga Rioran, Toon Ancient Gear Golem, Toon RP Lady. There are quite a few Toons that was either in the show or wasn't in the show. It's something like that. Why didn't we get any other monsters for Time Wizard? Like maybe 1,000 years passed and you could have the Great Summoned Skull, or 1,000 years passed and you've got yourself the super great Ancient Gear Golem. And of course, they would have to have good effects. And if you ask me, I think Dark Sage should have an update, and it can only be summoned if you have Time Wizard on the field, and it can only be summoned by a success. And it's the same with Baby Dragon, and Thousand Dragon should have himself a effect too. Or, here's another idea. What if Baby Dragon and Thousand Dragons add multiple forms, like 2,000 dragons, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 dragons, but they can only be special summoned with the effect of Time Wizard. I'll say it again, I just love the idea that thanks to the effect of Time Wizard, if you're successful, you get to bring out a much more powerful card. And when you are successful, not only that, you'll also destroy all your opponent's monsters, and he takes half of their attack as damage, and they're destroyed. And then you can get your Dark Sage and your Thousand Dragon to attack your opponent's life points directly. I think that would have been a much more better idea than just having Time Wizard and Baby Dragon just fuse by using polymerization. Like I said, I absolutely love the idea that more monsters can be brought out thanks to Time Wizard. Again, like Dark Sage and Thousand Dragons. I mean, hey, if we can have more Toons for the Toon monsters, then why can't we have more Time Wizard related monsters? Just like Dark Magician and Baby Dragon, that turns into Dark Sage and Thousand Dragons. And you know what? I hope they do this in the future. I would like to see Thousand Dragons and Dark Sage updated with some good effects, and again, more monsters, or there could be an evolution after the Thousand Dragons. The Time Wizard could bring out bigger, badder, awesome monsters, and also, he also clears your opponent's side of the field, and then you can just go onto the attack. For me, that is just absolutely awesome. I've always loved this idea for Time Wizard, and I hope they do this in the future. And with that said, let's move on to the final one. Number 1. And number 1 is the Labyrinth Gate Guardian deck. Now, when it comes to these cards, we see these cards when Yugi and Joey was facing off against the Paradox Brothers. And their style of dueling actually kind of fascinated me, because instead of having monsters just fight each other, Yugi and Joey had to get out of the Labyrinth maze before they could beat the Gate Guardian, or whatever sort of monsters they have. I mean, yeah, I remember the Shadow Wall, there was the Labyrinth Tank, and there was the Gate Guardian, and all of its components, Sangan of Thunder, Kazajin, Suijin, the Dungeon Worm. I believe there was also a monster called the Monster Tamer, Wall Shadow, and others I forgot about. And if you was to look into the cards, especially the traps, there was a trap called Needle Wall. Believe it or not, there was quite a few trap cards and magic cards that had this sort of like labyrinth feel to it. But yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. Anyways, Joey and Yugi was facing off the Paradox Brothers, and the whole field was the Labyrinth Wall. And the Labyrinth Wall only had 3,000 defense points and no attack points. So yeah, they basically made a monster card their field. And really, there is a game to this. You can actually play this. If you guys want to know the rules, please go and check out the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikipedia. It's on there, it's got all the rules. If you guys want to go and play that, then go right ahead. But I'm going to carry on talking about why they should update these cards. But anyways, like I said, even though I do like the idea of a labyrinth field, and most if not all of the monster, trap and spell cards wouldn't really last that long. In fact, trying to get the Gate Guardian is a big massive pain in the ass on its own. You gotta tribute 6 monsters in order to bring out Sangan, Kazajin and Suijin, and all their effects are all the goddamn same, and it's only a once in a game effect. You can target the attacking monster, make that target's attack 0 during the damage calculations only. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. And that's all 3 monsters. And the Gate Guardian has no effect other than that this card cannot be special summoned unless you tribute Sangan of Thunder, Kazajin and Suijin. And again, I just love the look of this monster. And back when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was young, before the Egyptian gods, I think this actually might have been the second most powerful monster, right behind the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. But these days, it wouldn't stand a goddamn chance. Hell, its pieces wouldn't even stand a ghost of a chance these days. And we did see the Paradox Brothers in GX, where they also add a new monster called the Dark Guardian, and its effect was it couldn't be destroyed by battle. And you want to know something? It's a shame that these cards have been left behind with no evolutions or updates. But I do have a few ideas on how they could update these things. So these are just going to be my ideas on how they can update these cards. So I think I'll start off with the obvious one, and that one is Labyrinth Wall. And instead of having this card to be a monster card, they could have it as a field card. And the effect would be, this card cannot be targeted or banished, it cannot be removed from play. This card stays on the field until the end of the duel, or gets destroyed by Dark Guardian's effect. But I'll get to him later. Anyways, Labyrinth Wall has 25 tokens on it, or counters, and neither player can attack their opponent's monsters or attack their life points directly. You can only attack your opponent's monsters or life points after you surpassed the 25 counters that is on Labyrinth Wall. So basically, this card is something similar to Swords of Revealing Light. But I'll try and make it simpler as to what I'm trying to say. What Labyrinth Wall is trying to say, what you're supposed to do if you want to attack your opponent or your opponent's monster. Okay, so basically, let's just say for example that you've got yourself a monster that is a rank or a level 4 like Beaver Warrior, just for example. You would have to wait 7 turns in order for Beaver Warrior to attack either your opponent's life points or attack your opponent's monster. Or let's just say for example that you got yourself, just for example, the Dark Magician. He's got a level of 7, so he would have to wait 4 turns if he wants to attack your opponent's life points directly or your opponent's monster. And the same can be said for ranks as well. But when it comes to link monsters, they won't be able to attack your opponent or your opponent's monsters because they have got no rank or levels. But if you have a dice, well, you guys know where I'm going with this. You have a chance from 1 to 6. So yeah, basically, that's what Labyrinth Wall does. It depends on the levels or rank of your monster. The higher your levels, the more faster you can get to your opponent's monsters or life points. So yeah, I'm basically following the formula of how many moves you can move into the labyrinth by how many levels you've got. So yeah, that's basically what the field spell Labyrinth Wall does. Now, I had this fun idea with the Guardian pieces, Suijin, Kazajin and Sangan. When Suijin is on the field, it weakens all the fire monsters and pyro monsters, like maybe after defense and attack points are cut. Like, we all know that fire is weak to water, like maybe both earth and fire-type monsters on the field, their attack and defense points are aft. And when Kazajin is on the field, because he is a wind type, all winged beast and fairies and plant types and maybe insect types and maybe one or two more types get their defense and attack sliced in half. And when it comes to Sangan of Thunder, well, he basically halves the attack and defense of warriors, spellcasters, fish, basically all water monsters. But when all three, Sangan, Kazajin and Suijin is on the field, all monster attacks that on your opponent's side of the field is aft. I mean, yeah, this is the best I can do, but like I said, I'm just giving examples here. Now, when it comes to the Gate Guardian, you sacrifice Sangan, Kazajin and Suijin to summon Gate Guardian out. Gate Guardian has the effects of Sangan of Thunder, Kazajin and Suijin. Gate Guardian cannot be destroyed by monster, magic or trap card effect. It can't be targeted and it cannot be removed from play. This card can only be destroyed as a result of battle. Your opponent cannot attack other monsters besides Gate Guardian. So basically, Gate Guardian splits all your opponent's monsters attack by half. It cannot be targeted or destroyed or removed from play by effect, trap or spell card. The only way you're going to be able to destroy this thing is if you beat it in battle with more attack points. I'll go into more of the Gate Guardian in a little bit. I want to go through the other cards first. Now, when it comes to Labyrinth Tank, I was thinking that this card isn't affected by Labyrinth Wall, and it can attack either your opponent's monsters or life points if he has no monsters on the field. But your opponent's monsters can attack Labyrinth Tank unless you bypass Labyrinth Wall's effect first. And when it comes to Dungeon Worm, I was thinking that this card can also do the same, but instead of attacking your opponent's monster, Dungeon Worm can actually attack your opponent's life points directly. And Dungeon Worm cannot be attacked unless you get past Labyrinth Wall's effect first, and you defeat Gate Guardian. That's if Gate Guardian's on the field. Now, when it comes to Wall Shadow, I think that this card's effect should be, this card cannot be destroyed by spell, trap or monster effect. It cannot be removed from the field, and it cannot be banished. And it can't be destroyed by battle. And also, its attack cannot be changed. Its attack will always be 1,600, and the defense is 3,000. And the reason why I'm giving it this ability is because Wall Shadow is basically a part of Labyrinth Wall. So if you ask me, I think that seems fair. And like I said, its attack cannot be changed either in increasing or decreasing. It'll always be 1,600 or just for the hell of it, 1,800. And if Labyrinth Wall leaves the field, Wall Shadow is sent to the graveyard. And I think the spell card Magical Labyrinth should be a reset card. I think in the show, this card made the Labyrinth change, so the monsters will have to go a different way. So basically, this card resets the count of how many times the monster has been on the field, and all the monsters have to wait until they have surpassed 25 again. And yes, I know there was that spider that was a level 4 and it was 2,200 attack that was in the show, but these are just rough ideas. Now, let's go back to the Gate Guardian. Now, let's just say for example that your opponent destroys the Gate Guardian by battle, and if this is the case, you can special summon Dark Guardian from either your hand, deck, or graveyard, or from your banish pile. All monsters, traps and spells on your side of the field, including Labyrinth Wall, are all sent to the graveyard. This card cannot be affected or targeted by monster effect, spells or traps, and it cannot be destroyed by battle either. So basically, this card is completely invincible. It cannot be destroyed, affected or removed. But there's a catch. You cannot activate any cards, spell or trap, and you can't summon any monsters on your side of the field, and its attack and defense cannot be decreased or increased, and its attack and defense is 5,000. So basically you've got yourself an invincible monster. But like I said, these are all my ideas, and besides from these cards for the Labyrinth deck, there could be other cards that could be beneficial to this sort of deck. Again, like that spider. Now I know there's a few monsters that the Paradox brothers have played in the original series and in GX, so maybe they could have used those monsters within this sort of deck, or make some spell and trap and monsters from scratch just for this sort of deck. Now some people might say that, oh, this is just way too overpowered, but hey, what can I say? I absolutely love the Labyrinth theme deck. And I want to ask you guys something. Are there other cards out there that you want to see get updated or remade? You know, something like the Labyrinth or Time Wizard, or is there just 1 or 2 or 3 cards that you like, that you wish got an update? Please let me know in the comment sections below. So what do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you like these ideas? Are there Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you wish that could get an update? Please let me know in the comments section below, and let's get a discussion going. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching, and if there's a series you want me to check out and review and give my my thoughts on it, or if there's a top 10 list you want me to do, or any reactions, or responses, or rants on anything geeky, just leave links and comments in the comment sections below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Don't forget to like, subscribe, put the bell on, share this video, and leave a comment in the comment sections below. And as for my social medias, I'm literally freaking everywhere! I'm on most video platforms, social medias, forums, and support sites. It's best to pause the video and see where I am. Literally all this is down in the description box below. So if you want to go and check those out, please do. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out.